My name is Alicia Sinclair, and I am the founder and CEO of COTR, which is the parent company of sex toy brands Vibe, Lawand, and the Cowgirl. And this is my 20th year in the business this year. So I'm OG. I've been around for a while. I've watched this industry change pretty significantly. And I became a certified sex educator in 2015 because I found that there was a big hole between, the folks that make products, market products, develop them, and the people that sell them and market them. And there was just nobody that was developing products really had any background in sex education. So I felt like that was something that really was necessary and makes our products and sort of our mission overall as brands different than a lot of other companies.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even imagine what a toy would look like. I'm sure I could find one, but like made by someone who like doesn't even like study sexual education or like have a background in all of that. Like it just must have been so unsatisfying.
Well, I mean, I can get into like all of the faulty things about sex toy designs, but like, a really basic one is, butt plugs are supposed to have a bulb and like a thin neck and then, a flared base for a lot of different reasons, both safety and comfort. And there's a lot of butt plugs that are, completely cylinder shaped and don't have large bases, and those like spit out of your butt or go inside your body. And that's a really, really bad product design. So that's something that you see really commonly in the market. That's just like one basic example.
That's a weapon if something will spit out of your butt in the middle of sex.
No joke. Like, what position are you in when that happens? Like if it's doggy style, like
that's just like straight to the chin.
Yeah, that's a way to take someone out. Like,
God,
it's something to keep in mind.
Seriously. Can ruin the whole night.
Yep.
Depends on your goal, I guess.
Yeah, wherever you're headed.
Totally.
So we obviously want to get into butt plugs a little bit more, a whole lot more. And we'd like to know, what do you like about butt plugs? That's kind of where we want to start.
Like on a personal level?
Just in general, like what's kind of the benefit? Because I feel like, at least for me, I was never interested in butt plugs. I was like, I don't get it. And we've talked a little bit about it. And since I have tried butt plugs and I love them, but I would just love a professional's
opinion.
Yeah.
Sure. So one of my favorite things about butt plugs is that they're an equal opportunity sex toy. And what I mean by that is, regardless of your gender, who you're attracted to, like what type of anatomy, like butt plugs can feel really good. That's kind of one of my favorite things about butt plugs, is like the universal sex toy. We all have a butt, and butt plugs feel good in them for many people. On a personal level, or like on sort of a educator level, what makes them feel good is two different things. The first one, and it kind of depends on the plug that you're using and how you're using it, but the anal sphincter, your butthole, is full of sensitive nerve endings. And that's, typically why people experience pain, right? It's like such a sensitive, nerve-rich area, but it has so much pleasure potential. 4,000 nerve endings, which is about as many as the head of a penis or half of the amount of the clitoris. So super rich nerve area that can be stimulated the correct way, right? With consent, like preparation, like lubricant. It feels really good. So that's like one way. And then inside the anal canal, if you have a prostate, that's what like folks would refer to as like, I hate to use this term, but like, because it's familiar, the male G spot, right? So that's a source of pleasure that's inside the anal canal for folks who have penises. And that's really different and an interior orgasm, right? Something that radiates from inside the body versus exterior for somebody who has a penis. So that's really unique. And then if you have a vagina, your anal canal and your vaginal canal are next door neighbors. And when you put something inside your anal canal, it points in towards like what we call the A spot, which is really just the internal part of the clitoris. So like the clitoris is an iceberg, right? Like what you see is just the tip. And there's what we call the G spot and the A spot inside the vaginal canal is just the inner structure of the clitoris. So when you put something in the butt, it pushes into the vaginal canal and oftentimes stimulates the back of the clitoris, which some people can report feels better for them than say something like the G-spot. What's also really cool is the pressure that's applied. So if you put a small butt plug in while you're having vaginal sex, or if you're masturbating, like you'll actually feel a lot of pressure in there, and that pressure can feel really good in the body. So those are a couple different ways. Also, it's been reported from folks who take antidepressants that oftentimes they lose or desensitize on their clitoris or in their vaginal canal, but don't lose sensitivity in their anal canal. So that's sometimes like another way that people can experience pleasure when they've otherwise lost sensation. Yeah.
That's a lot of benefits, actually. And I had no idea that it stimulated the back of the clitoris. I just knew that there was like a fullness feeling if you were using a butt plug, and maybe that's what made it feel good, but I didn't know it could actually stimulate the back of it. That's so fun.
Yeah.
So cool.
That's really cool. Are there any disclaimers that we should be aware of if you're going to use butt plugs or butt play?
Yeah, I would say there's probably more disclaimers than there are than all the benefits, but I think the key things are preparation is really important with butt stuff. I cannot even begin to reiterate that you want to educate yourself, understand what you're doing. And consent is really important. If you're playing with yourself, obviously you're going to know your own boundaries and be able to stop whenever you feel discomfort. But if you're playing with a partner, that's something that should be discussed beforehand. Lubricant is essential for butt stuff. If you don't use lubricant, no matter what way you're playing, okay, maybe if you're just doing analingus with the tongue, but fingers, butt plugs, penises, whatever might be going into your butt, it's going to feel like a rug burn unless you use lubricant. And one application might not be enough. Reapply. It's literally your best friend. So those are the two big disclaimers I would say is preparation is key. Start small, educate yourself, and use a lot of lube.
When you're applying lube to the butt plug, or how do you apply lube when you're using a butt plug? Is it to your butt and up, or are you smothering?
This is go ahead. I want to the rest of this.
It'd be nice if you had a jar of lube.
Well, yeah. Do you put it in your hand first and then rub it? Because I've tried putting it straight on the plug and it just plops right off.
Okay, so that's what I call the squeegee effect. So when you put lubricant on your plug and then you put it in your butt, a lot of times that strong anal sphincter is just yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple your butt's not having it. But there's a couple different things you can do. My first recommendation is to use what's called a lubricant applicator. I don't know if you've ever seen those. It looks kind of I don't know, it's a shot or a turkey baster, but you can fill that with lubricant and you can apply inside your anal canal. You could put lubricant inside there. I highly recommend if you're going to wear a butt plug or you're having penetrative sex, because you're gonna have a lot of lubricant in the anal canal already before. Then the other thing is, if you don't have one of those, yes, put it on your fingers and try to rub on the inside of your body first. And then when you're inserting a butt plug, you actually want to do it at a 45-degree angle. So if this is your butt, your butt, instead of going in straight, angle down or angle up. I usually recommend towards the belly button. That's an easy way, because when you put it inside, you're gonna that delicate tissue, you kind of dip it in a little and then push down, and that's going to create a little bit of an opening so you don't get so much of that squeegee effect.
Okay, so you're kind of
I know a lot about this
thing, when you it's preparation H, which brought me to another question, unless you have one.
Well, who's doing the turkey basting? Do you do it to yourself? Is there a sexy way to have a partner do that to you?
I think you can make everything sexy, but it's
I'd love to know how.
Always funny. It's always okay. You're playing doctor, play doctor. I don't.
It's over, babe.
It's time for your.
Well, are you doing enemas before you have anal sex? Is that something you're into, or?
I've never done one.
I have not either.
No.
Is poop something that either of you are concerned about?
Yeah.
Not so much me, but
you have a lifelong partner. I don't. If the first time I do butt stuff, it'll be with someone new over and over, you know? So yes, I am terrified of poop stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say you can, if you're preparing with an enema, you can also sort of prepare yourself beforehand by like pre-inserting lubricant. You can do that sort of for yourself beforehand.
Wow, right? Because your butt's so tight. If you walk around with like lube in your butt.
Butt's pretty tight. Yeah, your butt's pretty
Probably.
tight. It all sounds really funny, but if your end goal is to have like great anal sex, then you know a lot of these things are tips and tricks. You know,
Yeah,
these are the ways that
absolutely.
folks like have really great anal sex.
How early is too early to
Like
Put in lubricant.
Yeah.
Make sure you're
Well,
not gonna like shit yourself.
Yeah, I would say like you probably want to do that like right before you're gonna play.
Okay.
Whereas something like an enema, you want to do that about an hour in advance. And that's because water can get stuck in the folds of the anal tissue. And sometimes you have a little extra like water discharge. So that's something you want to make sure you do a little earlier than your playtime.
We have talked about enemas before, but for listeners who haven't heard those episodes, could you just explain what an enema is?
Yeah. So an enema basically is cleansing what is the rectum, right? Which is what I refer to as like the garage, you know? So like poop isn't technically like poop, it doesn't live there. It's just like stored there. So like whenever your colon, like, you know, it goes through digestive system and like your colon emits like, you know, fecal matter into your anal canal. And like typically you release it pretty soon after. You don't like hold poop in your body all day long. That's not something, but of course there's, you know, you have folds in your anal canal, like maybe you ate something, maybe you digest food really quickly. I don't know. Everybody's body is different. But like most people kind of know the rhythm of their body, right? They mostly like poop in the morning or they poop at night. So if you know that and you're comfortable with your partner, you don't really need, it's not required to do an enema. But there's lots of folks who like prefer that internal cleanliness. And so if that's the name of the game for you, then you basically want to get a bulb enema. You can buy these inexpensively at a pharmacy that, you know, those like fleet enemas. I think they cost like $2-3, or you can buy a reusable one, which is like a bulb enema from any adult store will have one. If you buy the one in the pharmacy, you're going to dump those contents out. What's in that bottle will make you go to the bathroom. That's not the goal here. So you just want to use the tool, right? So all you want to put inside your body is warm water, and really nothing more than say like half a cup to 3/4 a cup. All you're doing is rinsing out your anal, your rectum. That's it. So you're basically going to fill it with warm water that feels comfortable, like as if you were making a baby bottle, like test it on your wrist, lubricate the nozzle, like screw it on, and then you'll push the little nozzle inside your rectum, push the bulb, empty the bulb, and you'll feel pretty quickly that you need to go to the bathroom. So you'll just sit on the toilet and go to the bathroom. If that water runs clear, then there's nothing left inside your body. But if it's kind of filled with a little bit of poop, maybe you want to repeat that cycle one more time. And then, you know, okay, I'm like cleaned out.
Oh, that is reassuring, and that sounds less scary than like the word enema. I feel like it sounds like a
Yeah.
procedure.
I know, right?
Like people call it douching, right?
So douching, I'm actually personally confused about the difference between these two things. It seems like douching is something that typically is used for the vaginal canal, whereas my understanding is like enemas or something that's used for the anal canal.
Right.
But yeah, people cross mingle the words. I think they're kind of the same tool. Just people use them interchangeably, I guess.
Okay.
The words, I mean. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I
like don't
use it.
Don't use those things interchangeably. Yeah.
I have one more like health question in terms of butt play. So if you are someone who is like prone to hemorrhoids, are butt plugs like a no-go for you, or is that just something you have to be more like, I don't know, wary of?
I think if you're prone to hemorrhoids, you probably just want to be like, if they're flared up, you obviously probably don't want to play with something that's going to aggravate it during that time. But for the most part, if you're using a really well-designed butt plug, it shouldn't aggravate a hemorrhoid. I would say you probably don't want to do something like anal beads, right? Which is meant to stimulate the anal sphincter. Whereas like butt plugs go in and stay in, and beads are meant to be pulled in and out. So if you're using a plug, I think you're good to go. But if you're like you wouldn't want to have anal sex maybe when you have a flared up hemorrhoid, because that will aggravate it.
Right. Oh, I didn't know. So I have silicone beads that I tried. Are those meant to just stay in? Because they're all floppy, so I couldn't like take out and pull in or put in.
You can, so people use those in a variety of different ways. The flexible ones like that, a lot of people like to put them completely inside their body. Again, that can give lots of pressure. Also, if you're having sex with penetrative sex in your vaginal canal, like the penis can feel those bumps and that pressure. And like that can be a really cool, fun way to play with your partner. If you're using it in that sense, I think it's okay. But there's a lot of folks that when you're getting close to orgasm, you pull those out, and that's going to intensify your orgasm. And that's a different, or some people, if you're using the affixed ones that are sort of more like, like a dildo type thing, then somebody like that would typically push in, pull out, play with 2 or 3 beads at a time in that way.
Oh, okay. I would donkey kick anyone that that pulled anal beads out of my butt while I was about to orgasm. I would just, I don't know.
Well, I think it might depend on how they pull it out, so if they're kind of like gently pulling and tugging on it and creating some pressure as they pull that out, it could feel really good. But I definitely don't think a lawnmower situation is the way to go.
Like a ripcord.
Yeah,
right.
Get your engine
Let's go.
going.
Sounds so scary.
Go that route.
I want to talk, since we're talking about putting things in and taking them out, I want to talk a little bit about inserting butt plugs.
Inserting a bun.
Inserting butt plugs and taking them out. So, yeah. I don't even know where to start with this question because there's so many pieces that I'm bringing in personally. How do you recommend just putting one in? Let's start when you're with a partner.
So like, I think my questions I have like a bunch of follow-up questions, like what size is it? Like, is it a big plug? It is a small plug? Is it something you've played with before? I think like an easy answer would be to slightly bear down, if that makes sense. Okay. So not all the way, but sort of like a medium, because that's going to open your butt and it's going to be easier to put something inside. And if a partner is putting it in, my go-to recommendation, you've lubricated, you've prepared, you've consented, you're like on your stomach with a pillow underneath like your abdomen. So your butt is kind of up and there's like some easy access there.
Okay. Because if they had to both spread your cheeks and insert, that'd be
so terrible.
A lot of work.
Yeah. It scares me. Yeah. I'll be honest.
You put in your butt plugs, right?
Yeah. When I've used a butt plug with my partner, I have always put it in and said, look away. Yeah. Which is...
Look away. Interesting.
Yeah. It's... look away. I'm sensitive. I don't know. I think I'm still nervous. I'm still very nervous about it. And I think I still feel... I don't know.
Yeah. Well, were you like in a very compromising... I mean, obviously you're sticking something in your ass, but like how were you positioned when you were putting it in?
I think I was just kind of like standing up with my hand against something and kind of like bent down,
bracing yourself. Okay.
Or squatted like on my knees on the bed.
Okay.
Like in what is that position called? Just up on my knees. Yeah.
High kneeling.
Yeah.
Just kneeling. A butt plug. Like what would be your ideal position if you're putting it in yourself?
I think I would probably do something similar to the way that you're talking about, which is like something on my knees, maybe like a doggy style, but like not full on butt up, maybe like midway. So it's like easier access.
Yeah.
I was.
Are we all imagining each other in that position right now? That's happening.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm still thinking of you on the wall.
Failing it. I had those. Like I said, the silicone like floppy ones, which were such a bitch to put in.
They really are. Yeah.
You have to hold like the base of just one bead and like shove it in your asshole.
You gotta put a finger in with it.
Yeah.
One at a time. Yeah.
And then so
like a tampon.
Yeah. So I'm on my back, like up here, my gross ass sock, like trying to get it in, but I was also with a partner. So I was like, this is so awkward.
Not sexy for
Was
me.
he watching you?
He was not watching me. Again, I would not let him.
Yeah.
I also said.
So what's the alternative to turn away? Is it direct eye contact? Because that feels like the only
directly.
other solution in my head.
I think maybe we have to okay, I'm just gonna say what I would do. I don't know if it works for everybody, but I think ultimately the goal would be to have them be able to do it. So I think I might get in, I said, I would dim the lights, maybe candles, something where it's you can see, but it's good low light,
Yeah.
and get in a position where I not really face, it's not eye contact, and maybe do something I don't know, sex furniture or a pillow, something where it's a sexy position, and then maybe say okay, let them watch insertion, because I think, believe it or not, both of you are having sex with men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I think for men, that's something that is incredibly visually appealing, whether we feel that way. I think for I'm just going to speak to my experience, and I could be wrong, but there's a really visual element of sex for men more than there is for women. And that, watching you do that would probably be a big turn on. So this is just my experience. So I think that could be something maybe practice a couple, sounds silly, but practice doing it a couple times on your own, and then set the stage for yourself, and then do it one time and say, let them know you're training them,
Yeah. This is
pay attention.
One.
I might let you do this one. I might let you do this if you pay close enough attention, something like that.
Yeah, well, that's a good vote of confidence for people who might be a little bit nervous about their partner watching. So, it might be intriguing. If I were to watch a man put a butt plug in, I think I would run away. So it's nice to know that they might want to watch me put one in. I could ask.
I don't know, maybe this person is really sexy, maybe they have a really nice butt, and maybe it might be sexy. I don't know.
Right. Have you ever this is a very intimate question. Feel free not to.
Really, yeah, let's get to know each other.
I'm just curious if you've ever had sex and you both were using a butt plug, if that's something that you feel comfortable answering.
I don't think we've both used one at the same time. Although that is something I've proposed before.
Mm-hmm.
But my partner's not, that's not something he really enjoys. Tried it, but it's not his, I don't know, he doesn't really seem to like it. So I haven't personally experienced that, but I've done an immense amount of education work, especially in retail stores and at conferences, and a lot of people seem to enjoy that. People who are open to that, more open, couples who are a little bit, I would say, I don't know, more adventurous. I think we're pretty adventurous, but we're not that adventurous, I guess. But I have heard people really like it, and a lot of people use, we get, a lot of customer service emails, and people share their really intimate experiences. We also have a column called Ask Me Anything. So people send in their questions, and I read all the answers. I think they're fascinating. And a lot of people share very positive experiences, especially with remote control toys, where they've traded remote controls with their partner. Ooh. Yeah. And done. Yeah. People are really creative. I'm very impressed. And maybe the receiving partner has, they're doing penetrative sex, and the person that's taking the penis has a remote control for the other person. So there's people that get really creative with it, and I think it adds a layer of play and sort of a dom sub thing in the mix too, that can be really cool. And you folks are young, right? You're both pretty young.
Yeah, we're mid-20s.
Yeah. When you get a little older, it's you have to try harder for you've been to Disney World, you know what I mean? What next?
That's fair. No, that does sound pretty cool too. Especially, I think it could be fun if you're both experiencing it and have traded off a remote, or I'm not going to do it with you. I don't know why I went like this, but
you get it.
Friends do stuff together, Em.
I don't want to do that.
We'll talk about it later.
And then you trade off a remote with your partner. That could be really fun. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps. While it's in,
Mhm.
question, should it, if let's say you have a butt plug in, this is about me, this is personal.
Mhm.
I have a butt plug in, I'm having penetrative sex with my partner in my vagina, and the butt plug is like slipping in and out. Is it too
Mhm.
small? Is my butthole too big? What am I doing wrong?
Ask a doctor.
My question would be probably like, what butt plug is it? Because a lot of times it could be like the actual design of the plug.
Okay.
My answer is always going to be like, your butt is not too big. Like, just need a different toy. Like, for example, I don't know how well you know our product line, but like, for example, our snug plugs, which I don't know if you've ever seen those, but they have like long, thin necks.
Mhm.
Those are really great to use during sex because that neck allows it to sort of bend with your body very easily.
Okay.
And you can still feel, because there's weight in the plug, you can still feel that weight like sort of going inside your body and touching different places. Whereas something that's like vibrating maybe has like a smaller neck or it's more rigid, that can be sometimes harder to bend with your body. So it's not necessarily about like the size of your butt. It's just about like what you're doing, like what position you're in which way you're bent, the size of the plug, or it can be just really poorly designed. Like I said, it doesn't have the bulb isn't big enough in relation to the size of the neck. So it's just like spitting it. It's just being spit out because your anal sphincter is actually kind of gripping on that bulb where that neck is. Your anal sphincter is actually like, that's what's keeping it in place. So if it's not large enough, right, the bulb isn't large enough in relative to the size of the neck, it's just going to spit out.
That makes sense. I think, to be honest, I don't even totally know if it was falling out. I was just scared that it was either going to fall in or out. And so I kept
Yeah.
finding myself checking, just
Mhm.
like very
Yeah.
religiously checking. And it made it hard. But it was also like one of a trainer set of butt plugs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
probably wasn't
Yeah.
ideal for that anyway. But I tried it. So
And I know you're saying you should be using like the right toys that are designed to be in your butt, but what happens, like, and what should you do immediately if it does go in your butt and you have lost your butt plug?
Well, you probably need to go to the hospital. I mean, you can try and wait a little bit to see. I mean, if you know like right away the plug has gone inside your body, I would like send your finger on a rescue mission, like to see if you could find it like ASAP. Um, and be like very careful because you don't want to push it further in, So maybe like, I mean, I'm going to say all the things that like sound, you know, pretty logical, which is like try and get it out of your body, like push, like
Mhm.
try and push it out of your body and like, or push and, try and push and then like put your finger in there to see if you can grab the end of it. If that doesn't work, you should go to the hospital like right away because it really can get sucked into your inner colon and that can cause some pretty like dangerous scenarios.
Mhm. Okay.
Sorry,
so-
that's a
No,
downer.
it's
That's not
okay.
sexy. Yeah, that's not sexy.
In lieu of sucking it in, how do you take it out? You just pop it out? I did that a lot faster and harder than I imagined.
I'm
would
like,
come
yeah, I
about.
was envisioning. I was like, that sounds like the lawnmower again. I would say like the way to take it out is pretty much the way you put it in,
Mhm.
right? So again, bear down about halfway, not all the way, and then pull your plug 45 degrees. So pull it up or pull it down. Don't pull it straight out. Like that's actually probably going to hurt a little bit,
Mhm.
like because when you're like thinking about like pushing and pulling out, it's going to come out a lot easier than if you pull straight. It's like a
Go
suction
against
thing,
the force. Yeah.
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 And I never considered it to be that type of a situation where it was suction and or it needed to have more of
Mhm.
an angle. Because every time I've played with my beads, I mean, to be fair, they're not rigid enough to do much movement, but it
Mhm.
hasn't been
Yeah.
super comfortable going in or coming out. So maybe I'll need to get
Mhm.
something stiffer, like a plug, to actually like engage in play that might be more enjoyable.
Mhm.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can always use a little, like take a finger and just like sort of put that finger will help with the suction for like something like beads, just like sort of place, like I'm trying to show you, like place your finger like underneath the bead and sort of pull it out that way.
Break the
Oh.
seal.
right? Instead of pulling it. Yeah, break the seal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good tip. So while we're talking about, beads versus plugs, should we go into just all the types of butt plugs that there are?
Yes, we have lots of
We have
questions
lots
about
of
different
questions.
types of butt plugs.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Bring it on.
We're very
Bring it on. These
excited.
are so not the usual questions.
Oh,
We
I love it.
little divergent in the way
Yeah.
we think about things.
these are our honest musings.
Yeah.
And it came quickly.
Yeah. This was
Came
spat out in about
quickly.
6 minutes last night. We were like,
This has
these
6
are all the
minutes.
questions.
These are like from our heart. So
Oh, wow, I feel special.
if you're, baby's first butt plug, I wish I hadn't said it that
I
way.
wish you didn't either.
I'm baby.
Honey's first butt plug.
Honey's first
It's
butt
your
plug.
first butt plug.
Yeah.
What should you be looking for? What are the best ones?
Mhm. Okay, you want to buy something about the size of your finger. So think of that as like when we talk about butt plugs, like when we're selling them, we typically talk about them in the size of your finger. You playing with 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, like how comfortable are you? So when you think about butt plugs, like that's a great way to kind of start is by thinking about the size of your finger, like both in width and circumference. So it's a good place to start. You also want to make sure like the way that it's shaped, kind of like if you keep thinking like a triangle with like a little line on the bottom. That's like, you kind of want it to look similar to that shape, right? So it has a bulb and it has a thin enough neck that your butt's going to hold it in, right? It's not going to pop out. And the most important part, obviously, it needs to have a flared base. So as we say, without a base, without a trace, right? It'll go inside your body. And you always want the base to be at least the same width as the largest part of the bulb, at least, right? Because that's what's going to like kind of create that stopper. So those are the most important things. And then I would also suggest buying something that's body safe, because you're putting products, unfortunately, there's no real regulation in our industry right now. There are some ways that you can certify products are body safe, but there's no regulation. So a lot of those inexpensive products are made with toxic materials. And there's a lot of research now that talks about how terrible like phthalates, for example, are for your body. So I know you folks probably know a lot about that. But my point is, like, try to look for something that's made out of silicone. There's a lot of inexpensive silicone, like non-vibrating butt plugs on the marketplace. So look for something that has a bulb, that has a base that's at least the size of the largest part of the bulb, and it's about the size of your finger.
Okay. Great guidance tips. I'd never heard the fingertip either. So I like that. Because I'd want to try something a little thinner to start. Because weren't yours a little thicker?
Mine looked like gorilla fingers. That's exactly what they looked like. They looked like varying sizes of gorilla fingers.
And weren't yours curved too?
Like a finger.
Like a finger. But like, I
so
feel
it literally looks like a finger.
Yeah, but not a human. Again, need to reiterate.
So curved products like that are butt products are typically for prostate play.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those. That's too bad for me.
Real too bad.
But the interesting thing about that is the prostate and the G-spot are located kind of in the same place in different canals. So like both those products really work well as crossover products. So if those are non-vibrating like silicone products, you can boil them, sterilize them, and you can use them for G-spot play.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
In my head, I finished that with stick them in a stew.
You can boil them and stick them in a stew.
I was like,
they go great with bananas and
gorilla fingers
too. Like while you're at it, yeah.
It's just good to have multi-purpose products.
Lord almighty. Okay. So we've introductory. If we want to graduate to something a little bit more advanced, we've heard that moves. We've heard vibrating butt plug and also rimming butt plugs. Could you explain the difference of those?
So a vibrating butt plug typically has a motor that's located on the inside. It's located in the bulb of the butt plug, so the part that goes inside your body. So that's typically what vibrates. What's different about a rimming butt plug is that there are rotating beads around the neck of the plug. in addition to typically a vibrating motor. So like the rimming plug we designed, right? That was like our first product, our patented product. It has, like, think about it like a rabbit for your butt. So there's rotating beads around where the anal sphincter, right? So that's that like nerve rich area I talked about in the beginning. So you're getting that stimulation. And then you also have a vibrating motor inside your anal canal. So that's dual stimulation.
Wow. So then is the base of it that's like closest to your butthole opening, is that pretty wide then if there's beads going around it?
It is. Yeah, that is not a beginner product. We make a rimming plug petite, which is probably for most folks looks like the rimming plug, and then everything else looks giant. But yeah, it's a cylinder and beads rotate around the cylinder in the middle. So I think the smallest is, like, it's still, I would say it's 2 fingers, put it that way. Like, it's a medium sized plug.
Okay. Gotcha. Would you ever try a rimming plug?
Absolutely. I'm
Really?
ready.
Yeah, you're ready.
Yeah,
I'm
I know
ready.
exactly what I'm going to order right after this is that rimming plug.
So interesting because you've never had so rimming is technically eating ass, right? That's like
Like a rim job?
Yeah,
that's like
Yep.
so that's what it's supposed to be like simulating using those beads.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you haven't had your ass eaten,
Mm-mm.
but you were willing and ready for the
Yeah,
beads.
especially because of what you said earlier. It's like, yeah, there you can get that like A spot stimulation, but I feel like a lot of the pleasure that I get from using a butt plug is like the actual sphincter and like the actual hole itself and the nerve endings there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the rimming sounds better for what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
That's
And then
awesome.
maybe I'll love it so much I'll get my ass eaten.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you might also really like remind me after this. If you send me your address, I'll send you a couple different products, but you might actually really like our triplet anal beads, because it's a set of 3 beads, like they're gradually larger in size. But what I like about them, and it might be like if you try both, see what you like better, but like what I think is cool about them is like you can just dip the one small one and like play with one small piece, and then if you feel comfortable you can move to the second bead, then you can just play with the 2 beads. There's a vibrating motor in the second one, you'll feel it all throughout the entire thing. But like my point is, like, you can stimulate that same area through physical like motion, and it doesn't have to be as wide as the rimming plug. But they are different purposes. Like, one is like you have to manually stimulate yourself that way if that's what you're doing with it, where the other one is like you put it in and it does all the work for you. So it's like personal preference. It's and they're different sensations, like with the beads you get kind of a little bit of a popping, which I know may sound like it doesn't feel good, but it actually does feel really good for a lot of people, which is why anal beads there's so many of them. So I don't know, try those too. Like, I'll send you both and try them and see, like play with them in different ways, and then like see which one you're like, once you kind of experiment with it, which of those you like better, because they'll both focus on sphincter stimulation.
Wow.
This is my favorite type of research.
This is
Thank
so
you.
cool.
I will be donating my body to science.
Yes.
We're gonna need like a follow-up, like just a quick like follow-up episode once you've tried them and done that said research.
Research. I love it. That was really exciting, and I feel like we should have saved that one for last because that's just so cool. I also want to know about glass butt plugs and kind of what the benefit of using that, since it just reminds you of more like cold and very stationary. So what's the benefit of glass plugs?
I would say like the things that people like about glass, there's a couple different things. If you bind something that's clear, there are people that like that element, that sort of voyeuristic element of it. It is relatively inexpensive while also being body safe. So like that can be an element that appeals to people. A lot of it looks very pretty. A lot of glass looks very pretty. And there are people that like hard products versus soft and flexible products, which is just part of getting to know your body. And it's kind of fun because, to give you like kind of my analogy, like we play with our front stuff almost our entire life, right? We probably hump dolls, like maybe you started with like grinding and then fingering, and like you went through like an entire process of like learning about your front stuff. And most people just like stick a penis in their butt and like never play with their butt ever. So like they don't really know what they like. They just probably experienced a lot of pain, which if you did the same thing to your vagina, you would probably maybe feel a similar way. So I think like part of what your discovery with all sex toys really is like experimenting with a lot of different things and understanding what you like. So like there are people like, for example, I love stainless steel products. I didn't really understand them or like them until I was maybe in my 30s. And like someone in a store, I was like, what else can I buy? I've tried everything. And they were like, try stainless steel. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And it was this huge product. And I was like, no way. But I tried it and I like will never go back. It's such an excellent, unique way to play. And I think you get kind of that same, not exactly the same because stainless steel is heavy, but which is why a lot of our products have weight in them because I'm like a weight aficionado. But glass, like it's hard. And some people do like that hard. And some people do like temperature play. So you can heat up glass, you can cool glass. So like if you think about like using like a popsicle on your body, like that can be really sexy and erotic. So like that can be parts of the way, like you can get real, I don't know, put a towel down and get real messy with lube and like really have fun with temperature play. Like that can be an entire adventure, like, so it's just about like adding, I guess, like different things onto your sex menu.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like one of those. So like, I think those are different ways that people enjoy glass.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense actually. And I forgot about temperature play. That could be really fun. So it's totally safe to play with different temperatures in your butt then, cold or hot.
Yeah, anything that you're like feel okay touching on the outside of your body, right? You obviously don't want to like do anything that, like is too cold that you can't hold it or too hot that you can't. So like obviously like within reason, but yeah, it's definitely okay to something you would put in your vagina, something you would put in your mouth, like you would feel comfortable putting in your butt.
Fair
That
enough.
makes sense.
No fire.
What about toys that have tails? As in butt plugs that have tails?
What part of it? Why do people use them? Are they safe?
Yeah, why do people use
things.
them? What is like the allure behind the tails?
I think there's an element of like play or fantasy that can be attached to that. I think it's often a lot of folks use it, specifically in BDSM, if you're somebody's puppy or you're, like maybe you want to be cute, you're playing a rabbit, like there can be all these different, it's that whole like role play fantasy element that dress up that is really appealing to people. And are they safe? You'd never want to put the tail part of it inside of your body, but I think most of them are detachable, so as long as it's designed properly, as long as the plug itself is designed properly and it's body safe, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to use it.
And B-Vibe has a unicorn one, right?
We do, and it is a magnet. So the tail is actually a magnet, so you can pop off the tail. But yeah, we have a unicorn one. We did. It's out. I don't think it's in stock anymore. I think it's sold out. But yes, it was sparkly and blue and like curved. That's another thing you should try if you like sphincter stimulation. I don't know if you've seen our texture plugs. Have you ever seen our texture plugs that we designed with Zoe Ligon?
That we have. Yeah.
Yeah, you should try those. Those are like fantastic specifically for sphincter stimulation.
Okay, what is the texture of them?
There's 3 different textures. One is kind of like grapes, like a bunch of grapes. And remember, you can feel this internally as well. And also, Zoe Ligon is big on using like butt stuff for vaginal play also. So she tried them both ways when she was designing the products. So a lot of these can, like, people use butt plugs for vaginal play, especially if they have like a short vaginal canal. They can be more comfortable. So anyway, like my point in telling you that is she's tried them both ways. And if you want to, I don't know, try it vaginally first and then try it in your butt, like just for reference. But I would definitely say, experiment. One is like grapes. One is like a twist, like an ice cream cone. So it's like kind of twisty. Yeah.
What?
Which is the other one? Yeah. I can't remember what the other one is. And one is like, it's like thin stacks of donuts or like Cheerios. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the one that is the most popular is the twisty one. I guess that's very intuitive.
Mhm.
And then like the third one, which is like stacks of like the Oreos or Fruit Loops. That one is really popular.
Wow, those are fun. See, I was thinking you were gonna say like not bristles, but those like
Thorns,
like
spikes, barbed wire.
Yeah,
Just
right.
your 3 favorite textures.
Oh, like the rubbery bristles. I was thinking that one and be like right up your butt.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
I know what you're talking
I
about.
don't want to say that I am a product creator, but like
That sounds like a bacteria issue.
TM. I'm gonna TM that one. Well, I'll find my group.
I'll find my people. Just
Someone wants that somewhere.
That should come with a really good cleaner.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a lot of bristles.
Yes.
How deep are
Definitely.
the curves on the ice cream one? Is it like another thing that might get a little like need to be cleaned when it comes out, if it has like crevices, or is it shallow?
Well, the way that they're designed is the ridges are smooth. So like nothing you want to put in your body is like sharp, so like even the tips of the products are typically like rounded. So no matter where it moves in your body, it won't point or poke you. So it doesn't have like sharp ridges, put it that way. But like, yeah, you'll need to clean all of these when they come out of your body.
That's fair.
Definitely. Yeah.
Blanket statement.
Yeah. They'll definitely need to be cleaned.
That's fair.
There's so many options. It's just so exciting. It's fun.
It's a whole world. Is there anything else about butt plugs or anything in the entire world that we didn't cover and that you think we should before wrapping up?
I would just say like education is really important with butt stuff. I know it sounds like such a really boring thing to say, but there's an entire section on the bvibe.com website called Anal Academy. There are webinars, there are podcasts, there are like tons of articles. Like there's little videos, bite-sized chunks of videos that are educational and funny. Like definitely take some time to browse around, like search your keyword, whatever it is, because like that education is going to empower your experience. And so like just do a little research beforehand. That's my only kind of disclaimer, is like do a little research, because a lot of people, like we've talked about several times, like it was a traumatizing experience for many folks, and like it's totally avoidable. It's totally avoidable, whether you're penetrating or receiving.
No, then that's the perfect last bit of advice, because we love education.
And we love Luna Matatas, who hosts the Plug podcast, which is your guys' podcast.
Isn't she awesome? Yeah.
Luna's just our favorite.
We love
my God.
Luna. Yeah. We've had her on
Yeah.
now and we're
She's
just
wonderful.
obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's such a good educator. Yeah, such a good educator.
She's so fun. Where can our listeners continue connecting with you after the episode?
Well, I don't personally participate on social media, but you can find bvibe, right, at bvibe_social, which is currently deactivated, but hopefully will be up again. Thanks, Instagram. Yeah. And Lawan Massager and Ride the Cowgirl. All of those are our social media handles.
Perfect.